My
Happy
mom is celebrating
birthday.
birthday. Happy birthday to my mom. Happy birthday to Lisa's mom. I am spending the weekend with my mom beachside this weekend with the whole family. So we're hoping to really celebrate her and give her a chance to have some R&R a bit this weekend. So
And my mom is getting a big birthday party today. It's not a surprise, but she's looking forward to her birthday celebration as well. So happy
aw.
birthday to the moms of the LearnBiz podcast co-host. How about that?
Oh man, see, it was meant to be. So, in due form, of course, we had a little snafu this morning with the guest that we were supposed to have. So we'll have him on another day. And today we decided we're going to talk about some shenanigans in the business world. And just generally talk a little bit about us as entrepreneurs and some of the things that we have to be mindful of in terms of our behaviors and the things that we do and how it can impact our business. So Lisa's going to kick us off, and then I'm going to end us with a little juice. So
Yes. Well, Sandy, the nonsense that I would like to talk about seriously this morning is about this place called Kinley, North Carolina,
oh boy.
where town manager Justine Jones just lost her entire police department. Everybody quit in the
No.
entire police department. And it's just amazing. I mean, I just want to play the news excerpt on this and talk about it because I'm just really blown away. So let's see if we can get to this here.
So this is fair use, guys. We're going to comment on this, but this is some shenanigans, of
It
course.
really is.
All right, let's see.
Okay, am I in my right spot here?
I don't know. I don't hear anything playing just yet.
Okay, hold on.
Taylor. And I'm Ron Carter. This happened in the
Can you
small
hear
town
it?
of Kinley, which
Yeah.
is in Johnston County. CBS 17's Gilad Malamed is live there tonight with this story. Gilad.
It looks like it's pausing or something.
Yeah, I don't know why. It may not work out too well.
Pretty soon, this town won't have a police
Okay.
department unless something changes. Police Chief Josh Gibson tells me he
Okay, we keep experiencing
the department's
interruptions.
4 full-time officers gave in their 2 weeks notice today. Gibson says he quit because the environment the new town manager who started in June created. He says the other officers quit for the same reasons. We asked Gibson to specify what that means, but he said he wouldn't say because attorneys are involved. He says the town clerk and the town utility clerk also resigned. The people he spoke to like the job Gibson
Okay,
was doing as chief and says they're shocked and concerned by
I'm gonna get out of there then.
So let's just talk about this concept of a whole darn police force basically quitting due to one individual. Now let's talk about the reasons that something like that would even happen. Any employer, any company, a batch of people quits because one person is hired or one person is put in position. And I think you mentioned earlier when we spoke about this that there was some conflicts of interest. Like there's some issues, and as this news story says, there are lawyers involved, and obviously they're going through some things. But why would a whole department quit because somebody is hired? Like I think about that, and I feel like something is weird.
Well, first of all, she's only been there 2 months.
Okay.
Around 2 months. I feel like I'm freezing here in the frames a little bit, so pardon that. And it says these officers could not perform their duties due to the environment that was created by Jones.
So, as someone who's worked in a lot of different environments, some toxic, some really welcoming, some in between that I didn't really care about. I've wanted to quit certain jobs over the years. I've wanted to just free myself from the nonsense of certain types of employers. But I think, it's important to understand that, one person is not going to make me quit unless they literally are interfering with my work. And for them to say this tells me that there has to be some large scale thing. And I'd be curious to hear what that is that prevents you from actually performing your job.
I'd be curious to know if they ever had a Black town manager in the past.
You already know that might be an issue.
I'd be curious to know if their entire police department and other officials, municipal officials, have just all resigned in the past before. My guess is no. My guess is that this Black woman showed up for work and all of a sudden, problem, we can't do our jobs. This environment is just too unhealthy and unwelcoming, and we just don't feel comfortable.
Look, I can remember back in my school days that I had certain professors that people would complain about, but then I would have other professors that nobody had an issue with. And I'm thinking to myself, the behaviors are exactly the same. What was different? The color. two different people, right? So it's always interesting to me when I hear these types of stories, because of course we don't know what the answer in this situation is. We won't know until we maybe see some more information on the story. But I just think about it from the employer perspective, right? If you're an entrepreneur and you're going to hire staff, the environment matters. Where people work makes a difference, and the environment that you promote in that work makes a world of difference. I've had some extremely toxic work environments. And of course I quit as a result. It took me some time, of course, because, you got to work, you got to make your money. But I've had some extremely toxic environments that, lie to you not, made it difficult for me to do my job, like resulted in migraine headaches and just overly stressed positions. So I get it. Good morning, Rigo. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Good morning, Rigo.
So, I mean, I do understand the sentiment. It can happen. I'm not saying it can't. I'm always a little bit raised eyebrow when I see these kind of mass exodus type behaviors, when somebody of color takes position. Granted, we don't know, because for all we know, Miss Ma'am may be a tyrant, because I'm not going to lie. We have some of our sisters that can make work extremely difficult, but that's across the board. It's not to say only Black women do these types of things. It's just to say that, I'd really like to know more about this story. And it kind of hurts me that, it's a Black woman taking a position, and, this is what happens. And I'm always curious to see what the colors are of the individuals who did this mass exodus. Good morning, Doug. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. Definitely appreciate it.
Good morning, Doug. You know what, Sandy? The thing is, the word that comes to mind is just intolerant. Totally intolerant. We're not going to stand for your kind at all. We are not going to work with you. We are not going to cooperate with you. We are not going to deal with you and your kind. I'm sorry.
I mean,
did I go too far with that?
You put the little twang in there. I can't this morning. I mean, there's so many different reasons. And, I think as entrepreneurs, we have to think about the type of work environment that we're providing. I know for me, I really, really try to be open with communication. I try not to be a micromanager. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So sometimes I have, difficulty kind of letting go of my work and outsourcing. But you can't grow without outsourcing. You can't grow without, leveling up and putting people in position. So I've had very huge challenges with that, but it's because I'm so used to doing things on my own. And it's also because I have a license that could be taken from me that I worked very hard for. So giving other people work to do, whether it be assistants or paralegals or anything like that, it's a challenge for me. So it could seem like I'm micromanaging at times, but I catch myself always. I remember one time I was having a conversation.
It might not be that. It might not be that. What if she was just there to clean house? And I've heard some talk that she came in, like, this department has had issues in the past.
Okay.
And if she is coming in to clean house, they're not going to like her anyway. It doesn't even have to be it could be micromanaging. But if she's already coming in a position of an unliked position,
Right.
that she's there to make some changes anyway, they're not going to like her from Jump Street.
I mean, you make a very good point. I think we're probably going to need to do a follow up on this to find out, what actually happened, if there's more details that come out, or maybe if she speaks out on it. But you make a very good point. It could be very well that she is put in position to do some cleanup, and the people that might be quitting may be quitting for some interesting reasons, right? So hiring counsel doesn't necessarily mean that they're in the right. They could be trying to protect themselves. So that's something important.
But Roland Martin had something to say about this situation as well. And one of the things he was talking about is how she has not responded. Let me see if I can find that really quickly. Hold on.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
So guys, note that the topic today is shifted. We had some little glitches this morning with our guest, so we're going to reschedule with him to come on and talk about the film production industry. But today we are talking about two stories. Lisa, if you can kind of tell the story that we're talking about again, and then I'll go to my story shortly.
Sure. We're talking about a story out of Kinley, North Carolina, where Justine Jones, a Black town manager who has been on this job for 2 months, is now facing a situation where all of the police department has quit, including some of the other town officials, the employees, and clerk types have quit their jobs and just basically left her with about 3 part-time officers to service their area in Kinley, North Carolina. Obviously, the woman is qualified. I don't think there's any issue about her background and her past experience. But this is some of what these folks are saying about her, like in the resignation letter. Hopefully, you'll be able to hear this one. Let me see if I can go to it.
Town manager, and this is the police chief here, and he claimed that since she took over, the environment changed there. This is Chief Josh Gibson. Of course, in addition to the 4 officers, the assistant town manager and the key clerk also resigned in protest of Jones's hiring. She's been on the job for about a month. The Johnson County Sheriff's Office will pick up the slack in response to the resignation. The State Highway Patrol in Johnson County will assist as well. The town is left with 3 part-time officers to run the department. Jones has yet to comment on the situation. Okay. What do you make of this?
Okay, Larry? So let me get back out of here. The fact that she has yet to comment on the situation, I think, is also problematic.
True. That's very true.
You know, this has been since what? Today is the 29th, and this happened on or about July 20th. Why hasn't she come out and said anything? That's another issue.
So let's see. Rigo says the Justice Department needs to go in there and check, because if all of the police department left because she's African American, then that means that the department itself was corrupted. Doug says, I wonder if it's racially motivated or her treatment towards the people. And, this is a big question, because it could be both. We don't know, right? Like there could be a combination of things. Whenever there's a new regime that comes in, there's always going to be some friction. Here in Broward County schools brought in, if I'm not mistaken, a new superintendent, and there were a whole bunch of people that were ousted. Now, she's a white woman. A lot of the people that were, not ousted, but they were either demoted or put in different positions. There was a question mark as to whether or not she was acting legitimately or whether or not she was being discriminatory in her decisions to demote certain people. So, a lot of times when a new regime comes in, there is that big question of why is this person taking certain actions? But it's always weird to me, because if she's hired, she had to go through a process. Like, these are not jobs where it's like you fill out an application, somebody just interviews you and you get the job. Right. If I'm not mistaken, these jobs require a bit of hoops and ladders, don't they?
Right. Probably some civil. Well, I don't know if she was elected or at large or if she was appointed, But at any rate, she went through a process. You have to imagine, to get employed in city government, you're going
Right.
through a qualification process, and there are probably several interviews before you even get offered the job. Yeah, it's no walk in the park for her to have gotten to that position, for them to then treat her like that.
Right, right. So, I mean, I think that there's just so many different factors that play into this type of thing. But, Doug touches on two, major things. It's like, is it racially motivated, or is it, is she really creating an environment for folks that's just like, what in the world is happening here? He also said she could have came in, was trying to make too many changes too quickly. You know, think about any business structure. You have something that's long standing in place, and then you bring in an agitator. Agitators can be good and bad. You bring in an
Right.
agitator who's going to change maybe a little bit of the culture, maybe the environment, maybe change staffing, maybe bring in their own people. Maybe, there's so many things that can happen when you put somebody else in that leadership seat. You're
Right.
going to create friction. There may be people that believe, oh, how did she get it? Because she could be, I don't know if she's an outsider or an insider, or if if she's ever worked in this type of capacity, or if she's, brand new, and maybe this is her first time.
Well, hold on, I
I don't
got
know.
something on that piece. It says Jones, the new town manager, was hired out of 30 candidates in a national search, according to a town news source. She previously worked in local governments in Minnesota, Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. This also talks about that she had 16 years prior experience. She sued her previous employer in Richland County, South Carolina, for gender and racial discrimination after she was terminated.
Hey, Doug said she might have came in throwing her weight around, possibly. You never know.
Right. She has 16 years background in local government in Minnesota, Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, 2 master's degrees, one in public policy from the Humphrey School at the University of Minnesota, and a second master's degree from public administration from the City University of New York in New York.
So you hit something on the head, Lisa. She's an outsider. She's not somebody up from the ranks that was in this department before. She's not somebody that is a local. She's an outsider. Already that comes with some implications of some friction. That's number one.
Yeah.
Now, there was a process, so this is not something that she just rolled right in. But like Doug said, maybe she came in throwing her weight around like, look, I'm the new boss. I don't care what you all are talking about. This is what's happening, versus, maybe trying to kind of ease into some changes, because one thing that people do not like is rapid change. Like, you really have, especially if you're coming into a system that you weren't in. Rigo says, and I watch all the crooked cops going over there to apply. So they can be on that department, need to have a full Justice Department review before hiring anybody. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a real, to me, this is going to be a safety issue for that area. It's going to be a definite staffing question mark, because anybody that she tries to hire at this point, you never know what kind of retaliatory, practices people may have in mind. Feeling like this outsider came in and caused all of our cops to have to resign, and even our chief had to resign. The chief's been there for a long time, so you can imagine there may be feelings towards that. So she's
don't
coming
feel
into an
comfortable.
explosion of nonsense. I will be out of there like out.
You know what? I'm just saying, folks are just too, all of a sudden, everybody's real sensitive, just really, really sensitive, to change. But I commend this sister, because I think she must be tough as nails, for real.
She must be.
I do say it's been 9 days. Get your statement out, Miss Justine Jones. Get your statement out, please.
That silence speaks volumes. That silence speaks volumes. Like, I will say that is one thing when you start to think about businesses and when new people come in. I think you really have to come in with an understanding that you're going to meet that pushback. And when stuff like this happens, man, you got to say something. Where's your PR?
Yeah. Okay. Well, since she's not saying anything, I'm going to be done with this topic for now. But I just thought it was very interesting, and we better keep watching this one.
Man. Well, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Doug says the town is small, but its population is diverse. I mean, it's just going to be really interesting to see how this storyline plays out because, again, whenever a new sheriff is in town, per se, whenever there's a new person in the mix, especially if they're an outsider, you never know what types of behaviors this person has. You also don't know what types of behaviors she's facing. What I saw as some of the people responding to this, there's a lot of white faces. I don't know if there were any black faces in that mix that were, quitting their jobs. I would love to see a little bit more from this story in terms of who are the people that resigned. Let's put them all on the screen so I can see what the faces look like. And that'll give me a little bit more juice to understand. But knowing that she's coming into a certain type of environment where everybody kind of is together and she's the outsider, I mean, trust and believe that passive aggressive behavior that leads people to act passive aggressively as well. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is.
I want to applaud the sister, but she hadn't responded, so I need to hear
her
response first.
It's really tough. And I mean, we can always assume that it must be something racial or some racial bias or prejudice, but they did actually hire her in that position. So there is something like that part's really good. It's just a matter of what happened from there. So you're right. We just have to see what her side is, because otherwise it doesn't really matter what we think until we hear the other side.
Doug says, I'm thinking she's quiet because she's going to bring all her people in. She's like, y'all can quit if y'all want to.
You know what I mean? We're going to change this town. Wakanda forever.
No. I'm so done.
North Carolina, Wakanda forever.
I can't. Well, we going to go to this next story, which I thought was some straight up foolishness when I first saw it, because I was like, first of all, I'm already tired of our leadership here in Florida. So this doesn't give me any joy to deal with his response to anything, because he gets on my bloody nerves sometimes. I'm not going to say all the time.
Not your bloody nerves.
My bloody nerves sometimes. But, I want to say that, sometimes people can be right. Sometimes they can be wrong. This issue, though, I don't know. I'm a little on a touch and go with it.
You don't really want to agree with him, but you are leaning that way, and you just don't even want to admit it.
Man, I don't even want to give him no credit for nothing. But I was just like, this is what you get yourself up in arms about, sir? This? I'm like, okay, well, let's see what you guys think. So this is a story out of course, the state of Florida, because we always about that shenanigan. So apparently there was a drag show here in South Florida, not far from me, actually, funny enough. There's a drag show, and there were children at the show. Now, why are we going to blame the business is my first thought, because I'm like, the children came with parents. So if the children, unless the children are the children of the drag performers, the children came with some people. So why we got to blame the business? The business didn't do nothing.
Well, the business probably should have a few protocols like age restrictions or maybe something along that line. I'm thinking.
My God. I can't. I'm just like, why you got to blame the business? I didn't do nothing, but let's see what this story says.
A local restaurant getting dragged into controversy. Governor Ron DeSantis asking the state to look into a popular hotspot known for hosting drag brunches because they allow children there. As 7's Maricela Burgos reports, it's now at risk of losing its liquor license.
Oh boy.
The Drag Queen Brunch show hosted at our house in Wynwood has recently gotten the attention of state officials. What happens inside the restaurant is now under a microscope.
Having kids involved in this is wrong.
Like he really feels so perturbed about the children being at the drag show. But sir, how did the children get to the drag show? The restaurant did not bring the children in. Now, granted, I understand you want to do some restrictions, but their parents had to take them to the show, didn't they? Like, I'm a little confused. Look at the little child with the little. I can't.
The governor calls the images inappropriate, captured in pictures and on video that were then shared on social media recently. State officials filed this complaint against the restaurant and included some images in their report.
Lord of mercy.
It shows proof of unacceptable behavior with children around. The report describes the videos as showing nearly nude dancers and in one case, holding hands with a kid carrying what appears to be money.
What?
Look, Sandy, look, before we go off, it may have simply been a big, misunderstanding. Maybe this was bring your kids to work day, and, people are just getting the whole big thing twisted. Maybe that's all
Lisa,
it was.
DeSantis has his perturbed fingers. You see, he has the fingers.
I'm perturbed.
Who does he remind you of? I'm not going to mention the name, but he reminds me of somebody.
Okay, Tricky Dick. Okay, you got me.
Nah, Doug, don't do it. Doug says DeSantis 2024. LOL. That's my guy. Man, I need DeSantis to DeSantis his behind out. Please go. I can't take him anymore. He's over there with these little fingers like, I'm perturbed by this. No, you're not perturbed, sir. You need to be perturbed about how Florida is always doing something backwards.
That is not consistent with our law and policy in the state of Florida.
Yeah, right.
And it is a disturbing trend in our society to try to sexualize these young people.
So is it a disturbing trend in our society, or is it a disturbing trend in Florida? Because I've never heard a story like this. Like, this is the first time ever. And look at this menu. They have a kids brunch. So what does that mean? That means people are bringing their children. Now, the question is, do we see this as something that the business should be penalized for? And do we feel like there's some rules and regulations where someone shouldn't be able to take their child to a drag show if that's what they want to do? Now, nudity, I'm going to say, wait a minute. If we were just talking about performers, it would be one thing, I guess. But I think also the age of the child matters in this situation. I'm not saying I would bring a child. I mean, that's your prerogative if you want to do that as a parent. But Doug says, no, there's been a thing where parents and even a school field trip to bringing children to drag bars. But I'm just like, why is that even coming into the fold? Like, there was a time back in the day that children have children's activities. Parents have parents' activities. Families have activities for the parents and the children. When did drag shows become part of this equation?
Well, let me see if I can answer that here. I would say when folks decided that they have to grow their audiences and their reach and who supports their businesses. And so why not start a whole indoctrination campaign from youth and get these kids ready for this industry, whether they're supporting it at the kids brunch or whether they're participating in the drag queen experiences. I mean, everybody's trying to cultivate for their thing, what they do. And this is absolutely ridiculous. I cannot imagine any marketing campaign. I cannot even imagine a printer, somebody in the printing business, printing the menus for this crap. Just to say, kids brunch is on the drag queen menu. I cannot. I will not participate in this. Give me a break. And the restaurant is at fault, Sandy. The restaurant is liable. They cannot play this whole innocent thing because they're creating the inviting environment for this crap.
I was rooting for the restaurant for a moment until I saw this kids brunch. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Wait. Doug says, yes, it's a trend. No BS. And he says, I can't remember which state a few months ago that school field trips to drag shows. I'm like, school field trip to a drag show? I thought there were some standards that the alleged school systems wanted to uphold to protect all of these children from all of these toxic things in our world. When did drag shows become part of that? Rigo says the biggest story of the mall is the person that hired because he or she knew that they were doing to create this mess and the safety of the public. I don't even have words. People haven't been paying attention. It's a move to add P to LGBT, and it's organizations lobbying to make it legal.
Wait, what's the P part?
I don't even know, Doug. I hope you can tell me what this P part is, but why? I'm starting to see certain things that are happening with the school. So I remember, for example, one of my girlfriends a while back, they were doing the training in the schools to teach them all of the language, the she, he, the they, all that stuff. And I just kept asking her, I'm like, what is the reason for that? Because I would think that would be like an individual thing. If you have a student that has a gender identity situation or something that they want to be acknowledged as, I thought that would be an individual thing. Why are they trying to change language in the schools? It's just like, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, when did this identity issue become like at the forefront of all issues? It almost seems like it's seeping into every aspect of life.
It really is, because you can splice it down on so many levels. But the thing is when do you make it a part of an official education and learning? That's the thing. And I think, if we just stick with the basics in school, I think a lot of those other things and issues should be dealt with at home by parents. But I do believe in like basic sex education, reproductive education. When children become teenagers in school, I think that they should understand their bodies and how they work. And right when we're going through those changes in our stages as young folks, I think that's the time when the school should participate in that and give some basic reproductive understanding. But the thing about he, she, and the different gender things, I think those things probably should stay conversations at home, or you just respect individual rights once someone identifies where they are. I think that's how we have to do it there, because the basics are the way God created us. And at the end of the day, you're never going to quite be able to get away from those basics, although we can identify in different ways. The basics will always be there.
So Doug lets us know P represents adult relationship with minors. He's not going to put the word because it might mess up the algorithm. But understood. And I do see, I just see a lot of weird trends that are happening right now that I start to wonder to myself, where are we going? Because it's almost like we're going into an abyss of nothingness where there will be no definition. There'll just be a lot of little rabbit holes where we're trying to create some identification. And I'm like, it's not necessary. I grew up in a time when there were qualifiers for different people. We understood what it was. There didn't need to be conversation. Now, whether or not we're talking about people's rights and things like that, different story. But we understood growing up what things were. We didn't have a super obsession with focusing on, creating labels and titles. And it's just, I don't understand. And I think this drag show, first, I'm trying to figure out why this is even a thing. Like, how did we get here?
But Sandy, isn't there this new thing going around where parents are actually respecting their kids' gender wishes? So if parents are saying like, well, little Jimmy or little Mary doesn't want to be called he or she, they would prefer to be called it or they. I think that's how you get into some of these nuances and these spaces. Like, why are we here?
Yeah, but that's fine. That's little Johnny, little Jimmy. That's not a society-wide, every single person needs to identify in that way. So I'm not going to change the way that I identify because you want to create a whole new system. That you can identify however you want to. As long as I know what you're talking about, I can address you as best I can. But that don't have anything to do with me. That's your personal choice within your household. But it's almost like this is seeping into we're now creating a mesh of, children are making certain decisions. And I'm looking like, no, like, why? That's your personal household. You do what you want to do in your household, but my kid doesn't have to come to school, and deal with whatever that is. That's personal. I don't know. I'm not going to get on that soapbox because you already know that goes down another rabbit hole. So let's see what else they say in this little article.
Complaint addresses a kids' brunch menu that includes a mention of, quote, our fabulous show. While the governor can't stop the shows, he asked the state's Department of Business and Professional Regulation to revoke the restaurant's liquor license.
So in essence, you're going to stop the show because people are coming here to drink and have a good time. So, he's taking a back door to trying to get them stopped.
But which begs the question to me, why are the kids there again?
Again, it goes back to what you just said.
You want to sit up there and drink and be sexualized, whether you're just watching and enjoying a show. That's not an appropriate environment to have your kids there at the same time. I just think it's like oil and water. It doesn't mix.
look, this is the root of what we're talking about, what Doug just said. What does a pre-puberty child know about what gender they are? What happened to parents being parents instead of trying to treat children as equals? But what you want to be what you want to be once you're an adult. And I'm definitely a believer in that. Obviously, I'm not telling parents to ignore signs in their children, but I'm also not telling parents to encourage certain things that don't make any sense. When the child is still developing and growing, allow the child to grow in the system that is. And if you see there's a change, which there have been children that have expressed behaviors from very early ages, but that wasn't like a majority. That was a small subset of population. Now you're trying to make it so that it's like, well, all of us have to have this, I'm not going to touch it. Let me
it feels like they're trying to broaden their audience. Like, we want to not only deal with grown folks who might enjoy this type of environment, but we want to start training up our children to love this from young ages. That's what I'm seeing. And I don't want to be the one that agrees with DeSantis, Doug, but on this one, he got me. Yeah, I have to agree with him on that. It's totally inappropriate and immoral, if you ask me.
Rigo says the parents are running around with schools saying that they don't want them to learn this, they don't want them to learn that, but they take the kids to the show. Yeah, and you know what's funny?
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if some of the parents that have issues with certain things being taught in school would be the ones taking their children. Doug says exactly, Sandy. I don't ignore, but don't encourage either. I just keep thinking about there's just so many places that this can go, and it's not going in a good place. I feel like we're confusing children. I feel like we're giving children a false sense of thinking that the world operates however they want. A false sense of people are going to just treat you fairly just because you decide to give a different identifier. No, because the systems as they stand, the foundations of people as it stands, it's not going to just shift just because you start to create new identifiers. And again, I'm not being dismissive of people's right to choose whatever they want to choose, right, but I'm also being an understanding of the fact that I also have a right to choose what I want.
Absolutely. And I agree. I don't think these things should be pushed on the public like this. That's a problem I have.
Doug, I can't agree, Doug. I can't agree.
I don't understand where Doug got that opinion from. I really don't know. He's done a few good things.
I shall not acknowledge any DeSantis acts whatsoever.
That was one, and the issue with air property, where he made the law that all the family members on air property have to consent when someone breaks that chain and sells the property to a third party. So I think that is a good piece of legislation that actually helps people of color retain property in their families. I have to talk about that one day.
I shall not accept all things DeSantis.
Hernandez knows the owners of the restaurant and sometimes performs there.
Her house is only art performing.
He defends the show, calling it entertainment, art, and not a nightclub.
Okay, it can be entertainment. Here's the question. Here's the biggest question to me. The video images that we saw, a child with money in their hands, I guess about to put some money in some thongs. Not appropriate. We saw another child walking with somebody with a ASS cheeks hanging. Not appropriate. Like, you can call things entertainment. There is entertainment. It's called, you can wear certain costumes and whatnot. But come on, you have small children. This is not even like you could say you have a high schooler or somebody that's maybe like 16, 17, that maybe can decipher a little bit. You have these small children. What are they going to think? They're going to think that they can, perform and they can be in their thong. And come on, bruh.
Nobody cares. Actually, nobody cares anymore.
You need to stop it.
Nobody really cares is what I realize.
No, they don't.
You watch these commercials. They're introducing same-sex concepts to all minds, all children. Like, it's being put in your face. Like, you have to deal with these things.
Sir, do you have children is my big question. Do you have children? Are you responsible for the care of children? Do you want your children to be coming to this show if you say it's just entertainment? Because there's a way to do entertainment and it doesn't involve ass cheeks hanging in the presence of children.
And I've
it doesn't
been to
involve
these
thongs
shows,
and dollars.
and it feels like a nightclub. It feels just like a nightclub, Sandy. Even if it's 3:00 in the afternoon,
Absolutely.
you go into these places, it's really dark.
Yep.
And it feels like nighttime, and it feels like you're out at night at a club. It has that feel. So they can try to say it's a daytime entertainment matinee venue. No, it comes off like a club.
I've actually been to a couple, and I went to one for a birthday party once, and it was just like, some of the performers can be a little on the edge. Like, you almost like, are we talking a stripper at this point? Because some of the performers kind of take it there. Yeah, many of them are in costume. Yeah, many of them may be like lip syncing or, be imitating certain types of artists. But some of them, I mean, if you're not mindful, you're going to see quite a lot. And one of the videos I think I saw, they blurred out the top part of somebody, and it was just like they had breasts. And I'm just like, Earth, like, what are we? No, with the child next to them.
And they don't care. And the reason why they're going to be tempted to go farther and farther and farther, you know why, right? The reason why that they will go and push and push and push that envelope, moolah, baby. That's why. That's why they will push the envelope. So a little more cheek here, a little more cleavage here.
Yeah.
Oops, a little slip here, a little, because all of that translates into extra money.
True.
You see those people at those places. Woohoo! Take it up.
Well, Lisa, are you telling us you've been to some of these places?
Well, I've heard things, Sandy.
I love it, Lisa. Trust me, I've been around these situations a couple of times, and yeah, it can be some extra. Doug says children in certain states, New York and Cali, can have gender reassignment surgeries without parents' permission. We're heading down a slippery slope.
I think know that.
I definitely think we are, because I think the danger here is that we're not allowing a child to develop and to be able to make conscious decisions about their body. And I feel like this is going to create a lot of trauma for people as they get up there in age, because first of all, being in a position where you have a desire, you feel like you're attracted to the same sex is already a traumatizing experience in the environment that we live in. Yes, people are being more welcomed at this stage of the game, but it's still a traumatizing thing to the person and to their environment, to their family. I've had friends where their family completely disowned them because they have a desire to be with the same sex. Complete disowning, like won't participate in anything with them. And I'm like, that's a traumatizing experience. Yeah. So now you're telling me that you're going to take someone whose mind is not fully developed, who has not been able to even get through puberty yet, who has not fully matured and can be understanding of the changes in their body and how they feel and whether or not they want to be this, that, or the third. And you're allowing this person to make changes that could, in essence, be permanent. I can't get down with that.
And why allow your child to even focus on that? Why allow them to put them in environments where they have to even be exposed to focus? They have so much else to deal with, just the basics on a day-to-day basis, that's a whole nother level that they don't need that their minds are so young and impressionable. I just don't know who thinks that's cute. I just don't know who thinks that's cute. Boy. It's not.
Well, Doug says stuff like this has been happening all across the country, and that's what was part of DeSantis's "Don't Say Gay." Oh, DeSantis was about. He was getting ahead of the movement. Now, while I don't know all the details of this "Don't Say Gay" situation, and I'm not really a fan of some of the things that DeSantis tries to push when it comes to these different issues, I think that one of the tricky things in this environment is the fact that there seem to be different agendas being pushed, but there's no clarity as to the impact on the children. There's no clarity as to the impact on society. And we're just pushing forward different things. And I'm like, when children are being formed and they are trying to learn and experience the world, the last thing they need is adults jumbling up the process. You know, we knew growing up that there were certain people that were different. We knew growing up that there were certain people that had different tendencies and different desires. Mm-hmm. What needed to change in that instance was not to ostracize people for things that they may legitimately feel in and of themselves, because we don't know the reasons that these things happen. But at the same token, it is not our position to create transformation of children in their formative years.
In mass.
It should not be.
In mass. You know, we're going to take like groups of children and we're going to totally indoctrinate them by you bringing them out for like ice cream and cookies at the drag club.
I was almost on the side of the restaurant until I started seeing some of the images. I'm like, entertainment is one thing, a nightclub vibe is another. Entertainment is one thing. You know, some would consider stripping as entertainment and things like that, but there's boundaries, right? What happened to children have developmental phases? Give them the opportunity to be kids, to be teenagers, to be young adults. Let them have an opportunity to make some decisions for themselves once they have fully formed in and of themselves what it is that they want and how they want to approach things. And obviously, there's going to be outliers to all situations. So everybody is not the same.
Right.
And there's not always going to be everybody on the same side. But what happens in your household is what happens in your household.
That's right.
I should be able to live my life the way I want to, and you be able to live your life the way you want to. We don't have to bump heads in that.
Right.
So let me see if I want to listen to the rest of this, because this man is getting on my nerves.
He's a supporter.
In Spanish, he argues parents should be the ones deciding what their children are exposed to. And he believes this is being taken out of context and misinterpreted.
El comentario es bastante nasty.
He calls the governor's comments nasty and sad. We know in the past, the governor has talked about the importance of parents having a say when it comes to issues involving children.
This is where I have issue with DeSantis, because he'll be saying certain things and he doesn't recognize that what he says can kind of flip the script, because the parent that's going to take their child to a drag show, let's really marinate on that. Who is the parent that's going to take their child to a drag show? That is something to me that should be an adult environment. It's like taking your child to a bar, not a restaurant and bar, to a bar.
Right.
Where there's just drinks and people are just meeting with each other and whatnot. What's your child going to do at the bar?
Right.
Take your child to a strip club. Why is your child there?
Right.
Like, I don't follow.
You tell him what? Play with my phone. Play my phone for the next 6 hours while I'm here. Give me a break.
I don't follow.
What are you doing, people?
Let's hope this gets better. It's only a few moments left.
Mask mandates in schools, and the recently passed Don't Say Gay law that bans discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in elementary schools.
It's about parental choice, not government mandate.
Maricela Burgos, 7 News.
So, I don't think that, when I think about schools and the conversation about sexuality, and this is coming from an educator perspective. So I was in the classroom for about 6.5 years, went back into the classroom for about 1.5 years. So I've done both elementary and I've done middle school. And one of the things that I recognize is I was a science teacher when I was teaching middle school, and we had to do sex ed. But here's the thing with sex ed. Sex ed wasn't about me teaching you how to have sex. Sex ed wasn't about me trying to sexualize you. Sex ed was not about me trying to create any kind of agendas about how you should be or what you should feel or how you should connect. Sex ed was about me educating you on the different things that you need to be aware of if you choose to have sex. Sex ed was about educating you about how abstinence can be helpful to you. Sex ed was about making sure that you understand that if you are making a choice to have sex, and unfortunately many do, that there's safety things that you need to consider, that you need to be protected from things like sexually transmitted diseases, that you need to understand that sex is a decision that should be made with communication and understanding. And if you're not able to communicate with your partner and able to understand what's going to happen and the possibility of pregnancy and the possibility of STDs, the possibility of other issues, then you shouldn't be having sex, right? So that was sex ed from an education perspective. Never during sex ed do I remember talking about gender issues. Never during sex ed do I remember talking about how to, for example, put on a condom. Never do I ever remember talking about how to perform sexual acts. Now, we provide people with the children with resources and stuff that they can, obtain, but
I remember
we get here?
discussing venereal types of STDs and venereal diseases and things like that as a part of sex education, which I appreciated that education, because first of all, if you don't know what's out there, you don't know what's out there. And so that actually helped some people stick to abstinence, just because no one wanted to deal with those kind of issues. So I appreciated it. And so the whole don't say gay thing, I'm a little bit perturbed about how that's playing out. But as far as the business is concerned, Sandy, I think what the governor's doing as far as causing them to or pushing for them to lose their liquor license, I really don't know what the ultimate impact of that will be. Because if folks are still going to bring their kids down for ice cream and cookies and stripper booties, then, you're
not going to say stripper booties, ma'am.
Or whatever. I'm just saying, if they're still going to do that, I don't know what the liquor license is going to really help, because apparently that's not the lure of the whole thing.
Look, let me go down the comments. I'm sorry. I got backed up because I'm over here ranting. Watching 10, 20 years, there will be a P on LGBT. I've been following the sick movement since the beginning of the pandemic. Look, Doug, I've been seeing some things, and I'm just like, from an education perspective, when I think back to my years in the classroom, that's why in this day and age, I don't think I would ever go back into the classroom. And I'm really starting to think like homeschool, folks, y'all need to start considering homeschool for your children, or considering what environment you're sending your children into, because it's not looking good.
Can Doug tell us what P is? Can he or can't?
No, he did. Lisa, look back in the chat, because he's trying not to say certain things in this thing.
Doug, thank you. I have to learn my YouTube etiquette. Sorry.
Let me see where he said it. He was trying to say he's not trying to mess with the algorithm by saying certain things.
Okay.
It's about adults and minors having relations, kind of thing.
Wow.
My Sean Denise. Hi, my Sean. Oh man, she said no notification. I don't know. I think we're having some little tricky things going on with a channel. She says, I did a video on it. They taking their kids and allowing them to put bills in their G-string. I'm just like, where do we come from with this? Like, my Sean is a parent. You're going to take your child to the drag show. You're going to take him to the bar. You're going to take him. Like, where do we have a boundary between parent and child? Appropriate versus inappropriate. Like, I'm not even going to say right and wrong. Appropriate versus inappropriate.
Right.
Do we not have that anymore? I don't know. Doug says, Sandy, it's happening more than you're aware. DeSantis knows exactly what he's saying. DeSantis knows exactly what he's saying. I mean, a school field trip to a bar for a drag show, exactly like this incident. And that's even worse. This whole school field trip nonsense. Like, how you take, so when did they approve that? Because when I used to take my students on field trips, they used to put me through red tape for simple stuff. So you mean to tell me, so someone cleared going to a drag show? Help me understand who that was.
What I'm trying to figure out, what was the educational value to that? Because usually when something's affiliated with school, it's for educational purposes. So what was that all about?
Zero. My Shauna was in the building. They're drag queens going to schools, having book readings, dressed in drag with butt cheeks out. Oh my God, where did we get here? My Sean says no boundaries any longer. That is true. Clearly, there are no boundaries.
That's what I'm saying too.
There's none.
There's zero boundaries. And like I said, even if you take the alcohol up out of that business, I bet you that those folks will still support that. The ones who want to support it, they will be there with their children, and they will be having little kitty birthday parties and drag show performances. It's awful.
I don't think it's an appropriate thing, and it's not even about the drag show to me. It's about what is appropriate for children at different stages of their lives, right? When did we get to a point where a smaller child, a toddler, an elementary age child, is mixing with adult activities? A middle school child, there's appropriate levels for everything. You know, when I was a kid, you know, my mom would allow me to do certain things, but it was about appropriateness, right? I had to be able to be at a certain level. My mom would not allow me to sleep at people's houses. That was a big thing for my mom for a long, long time. She allowed me to sleep over at somebody's house one time. And I think I was like in 5th or 6th grade. And this was after she met the parents. This was after I'd been friends with this person for like 4, 5, maybe 6 years. I think I'd been friends with this person all through my elementary years. My mom, you know, understood who the parents were, where I was going to be kind of thing. But it took a while. My mom was of the belief, no, there's no sleepovers. We're not doing any of that.
Right.
But we went through the ages, right? She wouldn't let me do it as a younger kid. When I got to 5th grade, I was like, oh, okay. We had an overnight school trip. She might have not let me do that in a younger age. But when I got older, there was an allowance. When I was in middle school, there's certain things she wouldn't allow me to go to. But then there's others she'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to be a chaperone. You're going to go to the school dance? Well, I'm going to be a chaperone. You know,
but she would have never allowed you to go to a drag show. I'm pretty sure about that.
Right now in current day, my mom would be looking at me like, why are you going to that? She'd be raising her eyebrow trying to figure out what I'm doing. The school and the educational purpose was to teach, support small business. The school said the educational purpose was to support a small business.
Oh, Doug, that is so lame and so weak. That is so weak. To support educational purpose is to patronize.
My Sean said people aren't meeting other parents any longer. Look, let me tell you something. If my mom was raising me right now, I would be going nowhere. My Haitian mom was strict as I don't know what. I would be going nowhere. And this whole thing about all these identities and stuff, she would probably have to find me another school. Like because there's certain things, it's about appropriateness, development, allowing people to meet. I can't. Then when something happens, it's not their fault, of course, because nobody wants to take accountability for anything.
Nobody wants to be responsible.
And one of the mothers said this from those kids in Philly that deleted that old man. Oh my gosh, that story just hurt my heart. How these children basically deleted this man. I can't. I can't. I don't know where we're going.
What happened with that?
I'll talk to you after. I don't want to use the word, so you know these little algorithms.
Okay, we gotta. You guys are teaching me some things about Facebook and algorithms this morning. Thank you.
But yeah, we've been ranting. Oh Lord, it's 8:55. We probably need to go back to our real lives, right?
Yes.
But man, I'm at a loss. I'm at a true loss, and I think the core of these stories. So we started with Lisa's story about the woman
Justine Jones from Kinley, North Carolina, the newly hired town manager, less than 2 months total, a little over a month, I hear now. And she has lost her entire police department and a couple of town clerks. She lost all her full-time folks. She only has a few part-time officers.
Yeah.
And it's a bad look, but in 9 days, she has no comment.
Yeah, we definitely need to do a follow-up on that story, because that is just like suspect behavior. I mean, it could be, you know, there are some legalities that may need to be addressed, but at the bare minimum, say something. It's under review, under investigation, something. Where's your PR? Or did they quit too?
Yeah.
I don't know if they quit.
Yeah.
And then we ended with the drag controversy. Let's take our children to the drag show nonsense that's happening down here in my favorite state of Florida, with our nonsense all the time. We always have something going on down here, and it's never anything to the production of let's support our children in the actual education that they need to be receiving. No, we don't want to increase our positioning educationally speaking. We don't want to make sure our children can perform at standards that can compare with the world. We're going to take our child to the drag show. That's our focus, and it's okay. It's no big deal. And, you know, at first I was supporting the business. But when I start to think about some of the factors that are at play here, you know, these people have a kids brunch on the menu. So they understand that children are coming to the drag show. Therefore, there should be some considerations here, right? In terms of performances. Am I going to be butt booty naked with the children at the show? Or am I going to wear more costumes and actually do a show? If you're going to say it's entertainment, because one of the gentlemen was talking about entertainment. I'm like, entertainment is entertainment. Adult behavior is adult behavior. A drag show can be entertainment, but it can also be seductive, salacious, all of the other things involved.
But Sandy, they're not just entertaining kids, right? So they're entertaining kids and adults. So they doing everybody at the same damn time. What's wrong with that picture?
Look, my Sean says, I'm going to watch the replay. Yes, my Sean, please. We were talking some foolishness at the beginning of this. We decided we're going to have to change the title of this because we had a little glitch, technology speaking, with our guest this morning. So we'll have him come back to talk about film production. But we decided to talk about what the heck is going on in some of these stories that are popping up in the news, and how are these businesses not really getting, like, you have a whole force that quits, something ain't right. Organizational speaking, there's something ain't right, and we're not getting a clear story because you ain't saying nothing. And then you have the children at the drag show, and you a business having a kids brunch for the drag show. Oh, we need to just shut it down. Let's just shut down the whole state. We done.
The next time I go there, I'm ordering something on the kiddie menu.
I'm so freaking done. Doug, you and this DeSantis, man. I just want DeSantis to go away. Oh, here's my mom calling. The birthday girl is calling. So guys, I'm gonna try to edit the text of this post so that you can get the links to the videos that we referenced. But yeah, no go to DeSantis. And Doug says, great stream as usual. Thank you so much, Doug. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to click like, share the video, and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Click that little notification bell. We're going to have to get fancy. I'm going to have to get like some my Sean fancy where we have these little images on the screen or something to show people how to click. But thank you so much for Doug, my Sean, Denise, Rigo, and those of you that watch the replays. Somebody's watching these replays. Somebody's watching these replays because our numbers are creeping up slightly. So, you know, we're going to make sure that you have some more updates on this situation that we discussed, both of these scenarios, because we're going to have to see what happened in these stories. There's a lawsuit in one, and in your case, there may be a lawsuit because they're talking about lawyers are involved. So I just want to scream about our world, man. Like, why can't we? What happened to accountability and appropriate behaviors for age level? That's all I
can't even believe we're talking about this story about kids at the drag queen show, and it's all official with like a kiddie menu. I can't even believe we're talking about this, honestly.
I just want to slap whole batches of people. Like it makes me want to choose violence. Like I just want to like have a whole line of people standing and just go straight down the line and just slap them all. Because it's just, none of this makes any sense. It's like, where's common sense? I don't know. We done.
Gotta love this world.
Happy birthday to our moms. Today is both of their birthdays.
Happy birthday, mamas. We love you.
Look, let me get my body ready. I'm about to go to the resort and enjoy some beachside with my mama. And I hope you guys enjoy a wonderful weekend. We'll be back next week with some other great episodes. And we thank you guys again always for supporting us. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Bye.